Timeline of the American Revolution. Timeline of the political upheaval in the 18th century in which 13 colonies in North America joined together for independence from the British Empire, and after victory in the Revolutionary War combining to form the United States of America. The American Revolution includes political, social, and military aspects. The Revolutionary era is generally considered to have begun with the passage of the Stamp Act in 1765 and ended with the ratification of the United States Bill of Rights in 1791. The military phase of the Revolution. The American Revolutionary War lasted from 1775 to 1783. 1760s. 1760 Pierre de Rigard, governor of New France, capitulates to Field Marshal Geoffrey Amherst. This ends most fighting in North America between France and Great Britain in the French and Indian War. Amherst becomes the first British Governor-General of territories that would later become Canada plus lands west of the American colonies. King George II of Great Britain dies and is succeeded by his grandson George III. 1761 New England planters immigrate to Nova Scotia, Canada to take up lands left vacant after the expulsion of the Acadians. 1763 The Treaty of Paris formally ends the French and Indian War. France cedes most of its territories in North America to Great Britain, but Louisiana west of the Mississippi River is ceded to Spain. Previously allied with France, Native American tribes in the Great Lakes region resist the policies of the British under Amherst. Pontiac's Rebellion begins, lasting until 1766. King George's Royal Proclamation of 1763 establishes administration in territories newly ceded by France. To prevent further violence between settlers and Native Americans, the proclamation sets a western boundary on the American colonies. 1764 The Sugar Act, intended to raise revenues, and the Currency Act, prohibiting the colonies from issuing paper money, are passed by Parliament. These acts, coming during the economic slump that followed the French and Indian War, are resented by the colonists and lead to protests. 1765 To help defray the cost of keeping troops in America, Parliament enacts the Stamp Act, imposing a tax on many types of printed materials used in the colonies. Seen as a violation of rights, the act sparks violent demonstrations in several colonies. Virginia's House of Burgesses adopts the Virginia Resolves, claiming that, under British law, Virginians could be taxed only by an assembly to which they had elected representatives. Delegates from 9 colonies attend the Stamp Act Congress, which adopts a Declaration of Rights and Grievances and petitions Parliament and the King to repeal the act. Parliament enacts the Quartering Act, requiring the colonies to provide housing, food, and other provisions to British troops. The act is resisted or circumvented in most of the colonies. In 1767 and again in 1769, Parliament suspended the governor and legislature of New York for failure to comply. 1766 The British Parliament repeals the unpopular Stamp Act of the previous year, but, in the simultaneous Declaratory Act, asserts its full power and authority to make laws and statutes to bind the colonies and people of America in all cases whatsoever. Liberty Pole erected in New York City Commons in celebration of the Stamp Act repeal. An intermittent skirmish with the British garrison over the removal of this and other poles, and the replacement by the Sons of Liberty, rages until the province of New York is under the control of the Revolutionary New York Provincial Congress in 1775. 1767 The Townshend Acts, named for Chancellor of the Exchequer Charles Townshend, are passed by Parliament, placing duties on many items imported into America. 1768. In April, Britain's Secretary of State for the Colonies, Lord Hillsborough, orders colonial governors to stop their own assemblies from endorsing Adams's circular letter. Hillsborough also orders the governor of Massachusetts to dissolve the General Court if the Massachusetts Assembly does not revoke the letter. By month's end, the assemblies of New Hampshire, Connecticut and New Jersey have endorsed the letter. In May, a British warship armed with 50 cannons sails into Boston Harbor after a call for help from custom commissioners who are constantly being harassed by Boston agitators. In June, a customs official is locked up in the cabin of the Liberty, a sloop owned by John Hancock. Imported wine is then unloaded illegally into Boston without payment of duties. Following this incident, customs officials seize Hancock's sloop. After threats of violence from Bostonians, the customs officials escape to an island off Boston, then request the intervention of British troops. In July, the governor of Massachusetts dissolves the General Court after the legislature defies his order to revoke Adams's circular letter. In August, in Boston and New York, merchants agree to boycott most British goods until the Townshend Acts are repealed. In September, at a town meeting in Boston, residents are urged to arm themselves. Later in September, English warships sail into Boston Harbor. Then 2 regiments of English infantry land in Boston and set up permanent residence to keep order. 1769 to the betrayed inhabitants of the city and colony of New York broadside published by the local Sons of Liberty. 1770s. 1770 Golden Hill incident in which British troops wound civilians, including 1 death. Lord North becomes Prime Minister of Great Britain. Boston Massacre. 1771 Battle of Alamance in North Carolina. 1772 Samuel Adams organizes the Committees of Correspondence. Gaspee Affair. The Watauga Association in what would become Tennessee declares itself independent. 1773 Parliament passes the Tea Act, Association of the Sons of Liberty in New York published by local Sons of Liberty. Boston Tea Party. 1774 Benjamin Franklin, Massachusetts agent in London, is questioned before Parliament. Lord Dunmore's War. British pass intolerable acts, including Boston Port Act, Administration of Justice Act, Massachusetts Government Act, a Second Quartering Act, and Quebec Act. The Powder Alarm. General Gage's secret raid on the Cambridge powder magazine. The First Continental Congress meets 12 colonies and delegates. Burning of the HMS Peggy Stewart. Petition to the King. Greenwich Tea Party. 1775 Battles of Lexington and Concord, followed by the Siege of Boston. Gunpowder Incident April 20. Skanesboro, New York captured by Lt. Samuel Herrick. Fort Ticonderoga captured by Ethan Allen, Benedict Arnold and the Green Mountain Boys. Battle of Bunker Hill. The Second Continental Congress meets. Olive Branch petition sent to King George III. Henry Knox transported 59 captured cannons from upstate New York to Boston, Massachusetts. Trip took 56 days to complete. 1776 New Hampshire ratifies the first state constitution. Thomas Paine publishes Common Sense. Battle of Nassau. Fortification of Dorchester Heights results in British forces evacuating Boston. British evacuate Boston. Battle of Turtle Gut Inlet. The Second Continental Congress enacts a resolution declaring independence from the British Empire, and then approved the written Declaration of Independence. Battle of Long Island, a.k.a. Battle of Brooklyn. British prison ships begin in Wallabat Bay at New York. Staten Island Peace Conference. Landing at Kipps Bay. Battle of Harlem Heights. Great Fire of New York. Nathan Hale captured and executed for espionage. Battle of Valcour Island, Battle of White Plains, Battle of Fort Washington, Battle of Fort Lee, Battle of Ironworks Hill, Battle of Trenton, 1777 Second Battle of Trenton, Battle of Princeton, Forage War, Battle of Bound Brook, Middlebrook Encampment, Battle of Short Hills, Fort Ticonderoga abandoned by the Americans due to advancing British troops placing cannon on Mount Defiance. British retake Fort Ticonderoga, Battle of Hobbiton. Delegates in Vermont, which was not one of the 13 colonies, establish a republic and adopt a constitution, the first in what is now the territory of the United States to prohibit slavery. Battle of Oriskany, Battle of Bennington, Battle of Brandywine, Battle of Paoli. British occupation of Philadelphia, Battle of Germantown. Two battles of Saratoga conclude with the surrender of the British Army under General Burgoyne. Battle of Red Bank. Articles of Confederation adopted by the Second Continental Congress. Battle of White Marsh. Battle of Matson's Ford, 1777–1778 Continental Army in winter quarters at Valley Forge. 1778 Treaty of Amity and Commerce and Treaty of Alliance with France. Battle of Barron Hill. British occupation of Philadelphia ends. Battle of Monmouth. Capture of Savannah. British successfully launched the Southern Strategy. 1778–1779 Continental Army in winter quarters at Middlebrook Encampment. 1779 Siege of Fort Vincennes. Battle of Stony Point, Battle of Paulus Hook, 1779–1780 Continental Army in winter quarters at Morristown, 1780s. 1780 January 15th Congress establishes the Court of Appeals in cases of capture to provide for final adjudication of appeals from state court prize. Cases involving disposition of ships and cargo allegedly seized from the British. January 28th a stockade known as Fort Nashborough is founded on the banks of the Cumberland River. 2 years later the site is renamed Nashville. February 1st some 8,000 British forces under General Henry Clinton arrive in Charleston, South Carolina, from New York. February 1st New York cedes to Congress its western claims, including territory west of Lake Ontario. In 1792 New York will sell the Erie Triangle to Pennsylvania. March 14th bombardment of Fort Charlotte. After a 2-week siege, Spanish general, colonial governor of Louisiana, and viceroy of New Spain Bernardo de Galvez captures Fort Charlotte, taking the port of Mobile from the British. Fort Charlotte was the last remaining British frontier post capable of threatening New Orleans in Spanish Louisiana. Its fall drove the British from the western reaches of West Florida and reduced the British military presence in West Florida to its capital, Pensacola. April 8th Siege of Charleston. British Army troops under General Henry Clinton and naval forces under Admiral Marriott Arbuthnot besieged Charleston, South Carolina. British ships sail past Fort Moultrie on Sullivan's Island to occupy Charleston Harbor. Washington will order reinforcements to Charleston, but the city falls on May 12th in what is arguably the worst American defeat of the war. May 6th Siege of Charleston. Fort Moultrie falls to the British. May 12th Siege of Charleston. American General Benjamin Lincoln surrenders Charleston to the British. The British lose 255 men while capturing a large American garrison. May 29th Battle of Waxhaws. A clash between Continental Army forces under Abraham Buford and a mainly Loyalist force led by Bannister Tarleton occurs near Lancaster, South Carolina in the Waxhaws area. The British destroyed the American forces. June 6 Battle of Connecticut Farms, June 23 Battle of Springfield, with the attempted British invasion of New Jersey stopped at Connecticut Farms and Springfield. Major fighting in the North ends. August 16 Battle of Camden, British General Cornwallis gains a humiliating victory over Gates in South Carolina. September 23 John Andre captured and the treason of Benedict Arnold is exposed. September 26 Battle of Charlotte, October 7 Battle of Kings Mountain, 1781 January 17 Battle of Cowpens, March 1 Articles of Confederation ratified, March 15 Battle of Guilford Courthouse, September 5 Battle of the Chesapeake, September 8 Battle of Union Springs, October 19 the British surrender at Yorktown, December 31 Bank of North America charted, 1782 February 27 the British House of Commons votes against further war, informally recognizing American independence, December 14 British evacuate Charleston, South Carolina, 1783 September 3 the Treaty of Paris ends the American Revolutionary War, November 25 the British evacuate New York, marking the end of British rule, and General George Washington triumphantly returns with the Continental Army. 1784 January 14 the Treaty of Paris is ratified by the Congress, April 9 the Treaty of Paris is ratified by the British. May 12 ratified treaties are exchanged in Paris between the two nations. August the state of Franklin, later known as Franklin, secedes from North Carolina. 1785 Treaty of Hopewell, Congress refuses admission of Franklin to the Union. 1786 Shays Rebellion, Annapolis Convention fails. 1787 Northwest Ordinance, Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, Delaware, Pennsylvania and New Jersey ratify the Constitution. 1788 North Carolina reconquers Franklin, which ceases to exist. Georgia, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maryland, South Carolina, New Hampshire, Virginia and New York ratify the Constitution. 1789 United States presidential election, 1789. Constitution goes into effect. George Washington is inaugurated as president in New York City. The first United States Congress passes the Judiciary Act of 1789 and Hamilton Tariff. J. Gardocky Treaty. November 21 North Carolina becomes the 12th state to ratify the Constitution, with a vote of 194 to 77. 1790s. 1790 Rhode Island and Providence Plantations becomes the 13th state to ratify the Constitution, with a vote of 34 to 32. 1791 Ratification of the United States Bill of Rights.